What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
The Movies That Made Us. Netflix series, kind of similar to another series on Netflix that came out a few years ago called The Toys That Made Us. Uh, Definitely not. I'm not into toys as much necessarily. Didn't grow up with a lot of toys, but it was an interesting look at how all of the toys from my childhood kind of came into being, kind of the trials and tribulations of that kind of whole thing. But this is all about movies, which I love movies. Clearly, I grew up on movies, so I also enjoy seeing the behind the scenes, how things are made, kind of aspect of what this show brings to some classic films from my childhood. It's only 4 films that this series features. Hopefully, they do many, many more of these features on movies, the movies that made us, because I feel like I've been made more by movies than by toys. So when I saw this, it was a must watch. I was going to review The Irishman. I'm like, no, I'm going to talk about this because it means more to me than that. But I will talk about that later. Anyway, so the 4 movies that this feature focuses on is Dirty Dancing, which I didn't grow up watching that. I've probably watched the movie maybe once. But Dirty Dancing, Home Alone, classic. Ghostbusters, the original, obviously, classic. And Die Hard, classic. Just really great looks at how they were made. So the first one I watched is Home Alone, and just amazing to see kind of just the different people that were involved in the movie, how it was going to be like. It's just they're all like really low budget kind of movies that in a lot of ways nobody believed in. But yeah, the Home Alone, they built so much of the parts of the house, all of the house, the interiors of the house were built inside of an auditorium at a school. I believe in Chicago is where the one of the writers and producers lived. He hated Hollywood and wanted to get out of Hollywood, and went to this abandoned school that had been used in like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and those types of movies. So they built the house, all the interiors of the house, 2-story inside the auditorium, and then there's the scene where the basement's flooding. They built that inside of the pool. So it's really fun just to see, how they constructed the whole thing. The director was a new director. He had been a second unit director in previous films, so he came in and was kind of nervous to take on the project. And in his kind of putting this movie together and filming this movie, he gained more just more confidence and found some new ways to film the kind of action and stunts. But yeah, just really kind of cool to see how everything came together and how difficult everything was to come together. But building how they built everything inside the school, I found was really cool. Then, of course, Ghostbusters, where is Dan Aykroyd originally wrote the story, but it was completely different. It's based on his family's research, his dad's research and like ghosts and things like that. Kind of Dan Aykroyd's kind of an out there kind of a dude. Obviously hilarious. He's in the comedy world. He's one of the elites, but also just kind of a weird. Which sometimes people that get into arts and get into creative endeavors tend to be susceptible to going out there with many different kinds of ideas and beliefs. But the script that he wrote was nothing like what ended up being. It was supposed to be like the sci-fi kind of a thing where ghost busting was a common job. And then during the process of trying to get the movie made, they came up with like, we should do it more modern day. We should make it these guys who are trying to start a business in New York. And it's like the whole movie, so many aspects of this classic film were kind of just come up with as a way to make something work. Like the special effects, they stole, or ILM was the preeminent special effects group, and people weren't happy working at ILM anymore, which was the whole Star Wars kind of visual effects group. So they left and started their own. I think it was Boss, which they later worked on the Die Hard movie, also, which is featured. But yeah, just how they were able to get like the effects, the name was a huge issue, trying to get the Ghostbusters name. Just the companies who were in charge of making the movie, kind of like Paramount got bought out by Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola doesn't know anything about making movies, so they tried. There was a big hurdle there. One of the executives left and later went to another company, which ended up owning the Ghostbusters name, and that's how they were able to get the Ghostbusters name. Just really interesting stuff. How the movie was supposed to be Eddie Murphy and supposed to be like God, who else was supposed to be in the original cast? Like Dan Aykroyd was pretty much the only one, I think, from the original cast that actually came through to the end. Bill Murray was like a late replacement. Yeah, just really, really interesting to see how they, and the model of Slimer was last minute. They wanted him to look like John Belushi. Jim Belushi? John Belushi. One that died. Are they both alive? But yeah, from like Animal House. They wanted to like, that character was inspired by the character in Animal House. And so they kind of wanted him to look like it, but it was last minute. So he just told them it was modeled after him, and everybody's like, yeah, it looks amazing. Just really interesting, and just makes me realize, despite my love for movies, I never want to work in that industry. As far as like that, the movie making industry, just it seems like the biggest headache and the biggest sacrifice to your art that you could ever make. But super interesting watching the Ghostbusters one. Die Hard, they like offered the Die Hard role to like a million different actors. It was originally a sequel to a Frank Sinatra film. But the writer that wrote the book that the original movie was based on didn't want to do. It was kind of like a more of a detective kind of mystery novel. But the writer wanted to do an action movie, and then that action movie later got turned into Die Hard. And Bruce Willis, who was a TV actor at the time, was the only one to come on. Ended up being the biggest paid actor of all time to do this action film. And it really did a lot of interesting things to capture the mood in the moment. Just super interesting. I love Die Hard, the first one, and I mean the first and third one are really good. Second one's not that good, but it is what it is. It's not bad. It's not as bad as all of the ones that came after Die Hard with a Vengeance. But super interesting to see how they pulled off all of the different things with Die Hard. How they were able to capture certain shots, how they, it was all filmed at Fox Plaza in L.A., so all the neighbors that were around, all the people around that building, just living their lives, had to deal with basically fake terrorist attacks going on. Like, I don't think you could do that today in the way that they shot it, but very interesting. And then Dirty Dancing, of course, just a movie that, again, was produced by VHS distributor who wanted to get into the movie production business, and this was the script that kind of came to them, and just a very interesting kind of path that movie took on, and actually makes me kind of want to watch the movie again, even though dancing isn't really, and Dirty Dancing isn't like, I don't know. It was, but it made me want to check it out. I really enjoyed the show, the series, the movies that made us. I really hope they do more. There's so many movies from that kind of era that they can do deep dives in, and I think that, especially now that DVD special features aren't a thing, I think it would do really well. And it's way more relatable for me than watching a bunch of toys, how marketing materials were made. But yeah, go check out the movies that made us on Netflix now. Only 4 episodes. Go watch them. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Go buy my artwork over at inspireddisorder.com and save 25% when you use coupon code RTS. Follow me on social media at Ray Taylor. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!